हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल आइकन को प्रेस करें।
Our bones and muscles. Our body is made up of many parts called organs. Different organs perform different functions. Our heart pumps blood in the body. Our lungs take in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Our ears help us to hear. Our stomach helps us to digest the food we eat. Similarly, other organs also perform various other functions. No single organ can work alone. All the organs in our body together perform some important functions. For example, the stomach alone cannot digest the food. Several other organs like teeth, salivary glands, food pipe, small and large intestines, etc. are also involved in the digestion of food. A group of organs working together makes up a body system like the circulatory system that controls the supply of blood in the body, the respiratory system that enables us to breathe, the skeleton system, the muscular system, etc. Our skeleton. Our body has different types of bones. The bones together form a framework called the skeleton. The skeleton protects the delicate internal organs such as the brain, the heart, and the lungs, etc. in our body. It gives shape to our body. It also allows the movement of our body. When we are born, our skeleton has around 350 bones. When we become an adult, our body has 206 bones. This is because as we grow, some of the bones join together. Along with the growth of our body, more cells grow in our bones and our bones become longer than earlier. Bones. Bones contain blood vessels and nerves. Bones have an outer layer of hard and compact bone, which is very strong, dense, and hard bone, but inside they have a layer of spongy bones which is lighter and slightly flexible. Inside some bones, there is a jelly-like substance called bone marrow. In the bone marrow, the new cells are constantly produced for the blood. If broken, they repair themselves in several weeks. Our skeleton is made up of the skull, the backbone, the rib cage, the two pairs of limbs, and the girdles to which they are attached. The skull. The skull is the bony framework that forms our head. It protects our sensitive brain. There are spaces in it for our eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. There are 8 bones in our skull that are interlocked with each other and make the protective frame around the brain. There are 14 facial bones which make the upper and lower jaws and other facial structures. The lower jaw bone is the only movable bone in our face. It enables us to talk, eat, etc. The spine or backbone. Our backbone has 33 small bones called vertebrae that form a very strong column known as the vertebral column or the spinal column, spine. The vertebrae can move slightly through the joints, so we can bend or twist our back. There is a hole in each vertebrae through which the delicate spinal cord passes. The spinal cord is protected by the vertebral column. The rib cage. The ribs are thin, flat, and curved bones that form a protective cage around the organs on our upper body. There are 24 bones that make 12 pairs of ribs. Our rib cage protects our heart and lungs. The ribs are joined to the backbone at the back. The upper 7 pairs of ribs, called as true ribs, are attached to the breastbone in the front. The next 3 pairs of ribs, called the false ribs, are attached to the lower true ribs in the front. The lowest 2 pairs of ribs, called floating ribs, are not connected to any organ in the front. These ribs are smaller than both the true ribs and false ribs. The limbs. Our arms are the upper limbs attached to the spine by means of the shoulder girdle made up of the shoulder blades and collar bones. It consists of 3 parts: the arm, the forearm, and the hand. The arm is the region between the shoulder and elbow. It consists of a single long bone called the humerus. The forearm is the region between the elbow and the wrist. It consists of 2 long bones connected firmly to the humerus. The hand consists of 3 parts: wrist, palm, and fingers. The humerus is the longest bone in our upper limb. The lower limbs, legs, are composed of the bones of the thigh, leg, and foot. The thigh is the region between the hip and the knee. It consists of a single bone called the femur or thigh bone. It is the longest, largest, and strongest bone in our body. The leg is the region from the knee to the ankle. It consists of 2 long bones known as shin bone and calf bone. Shin bone is longer than the calf bone. These bones connect to the femur to form the knee joint. The foot contains many small bones. The bones of the lower limbs are the heaviest, largest, and strongest bones in our body because they bear the entire weight of the body when a person is standing in an upright position. Joints. Many of our bones are joined together. The place where 2 bones meet is called a joint. Our skeleton is very hard, but it can bend or move because of these joints. Strong, stretchy bands of tissue called ligaments hold these bones together. There are different kinds of joints in our body that allow different movements. Except for the joints in our skull that are immovable, all other joints are movable. The skull bones are immovable as the 8 bones are interlocked. The lower jaw bone is the exception, which is the only movable bone in our skull. Hinge joint. We cannot move our knees and elbows in all possible ways. We can move them in not more than 2 directions. This is because our knees and elbows have joints called hinge joints. In hinge joints, convex surface of one bone fits smoothly into concave surface of the second bone. This allows the knees and elbows to move only in 2 directions like a door. The hinge joints are very strong, but they move easily. Our elbows, knees, toes, and fingers have hinge joints. Pivot joint. There is a joint between the skull and the first 2 vertebrae of the spine. It helps to move our head upward, downward, and sideways. This joint is called the pivot joint. In pivot joint, a rounded or conical surface of the bone is inserted into a ring-shaped bone. This allows only the rotational movement. Ball and socket joint. Some of the long bones have a round ball-like structure at one end. This ball fits into a socket-shaped, hollow part in another bone. This type of joint allows the maximum movement in every direction and is called the ball and socket joint. Our hips and shoulders have such joints. Gliding joint. Our wrists and ankles have joints that allow the bones to slide over each other so we can move them. Such joints are also found between any 2 vertebrae of the spine. They are known as gliding joints. This type of joint allows us to bend, turn, and twist our back. If there were no gliding joints in the back, our body will behave like wooden puppets. Muscular system. Almost half of the weight of our body is of muscles. Muscles are the part of our body that allow us to move. They are made up of special tissues that can contract or shorten when they receive a signal from the brain. The muscles are attached to the bones by stretchy tissues called tendons. When the muscles contract, they pull on the tendons, which pull on the bones and cause our limbs to move. There are more than 640 muscles in our body, and they work together with the bones to move the body. Different kinds of muscles. There are some muscles which are under our control. We can lift our arm, write with our hand, close or open our eyes anytime. The muscles which produce such types of movements are in our control. They are called voluntary muscles. These muscles are controlled by our brain, which sends and receives signals through our nervous system. Some muscles, such as stomach muscles, work on their own. We have no control over them. They are involuntary muscles. Our heart, food pipe, stomach, intestines, etc. have involuntary muscles. Involuntary muscles work automatically. We need not to think about making them work. For example, our heart beats by itself. Our heart muscles are different from other organs' muscles. These muscles are called cardiac muscles. They are involuntary muscles but structured like voluntary muscles. They work tirelessly throughout the life. Muscles make our organs move. Our muscles are able to pull the bones, but they are unable to push them. A bone moves only when at least two muscles are involved in it. We move our lower arm up and down by using our two muscles called the biceps and the triceps. When we lift our arm, the biceps in the front contract and pull up the arm. But when we lower the arm, the triceps at the back pull the arm down by contracting its muscles. Bones and muscles are responsible for the movement in our body. We must keep our bones and muscles strong for a healthy life. Exercise and good posture help us to keep the bones strong and perfectly shaped.